What is up, my fellow nerds? Welcome back to the Nest. I'm NERDBIRD, and you have clicked on the ultimate gaming news speedrun. We got 7 major titles on the radio today, covering everything from the latest massive MMOs like Pax Dei and Blue Protocol Star Resonance, to deep indie dives on Fellowship, Dreams of Another, and tactical sales summaries for Lost Eidolons and Rise of Eterna 2. That is a ton of info, so strap in, grab your energy drinks, because we are diving into the biggest scoops in gaming. Let's go! For years, fans of anime MMORPGs have been waiting. The original Blue Protocol development by Bandai Namco faltered, but it's now been reborn as Blue Protocol Star Resonance, or BPSR. This isn't a simple update, it's a complete rework by a new studio. The game is now developed by Shanghai Bokura Network Technology, a company under Tencent. While the original game was a collaboration between Bandai Namco Online and Bandai Namco Studios, the new team took the rights to the IP. Notably, key personnel from Bokura have experienced on major mobile MMOs like Dragon's Nest Mobile and the Ragnarok Origin. This background is important as it heavily influences the new game's design. So, what did the closed beta test or CBT get right? First off, we have the visuals and the world, because hands down this is the game's greatest success. It has delivered on the promise of truly beautiful, high quality anime style world. The graphics are stunning, the movement with double jumps and gliding makes exploration a joy, and the zones feel alive, sporting up to 500 players in one area for massive world boss fights. Number 2 is the action combat, because the combat is widely praised as fun, flashy, and responsive. It's fully action based, demanding skill, dodging, and combo chasing. The boss encounters are engaging and require strategy and teamwork. This is where BPSR truly feels like a modern MMORPG. Finally, we do have the social elements that we need to discuss, because it promises a rich social core with a large variety of life skills like crafting, fishing, and cooking, as well as classic MMORPG features like guilds and strategic raids. However, the positive impressions come with some serious red flags, most of which stem from its mobile roots. First off is the monetization and the gacha. This is the most contested part. While it's free to play, the monetization is described as messy and overwhelming. There's a bizarre currency bloat, a battle pass, and a heavy push towards paying for convenience. Crucially, a gacha system exists for images. NPCs summon that directly affect your combat powers, which critics say lean out towards the game as a pay-to-win model. Next, you can talk about the content and pacing, because this itself is definitely an issue from the people who have pre-tested it. The core progression driven by the main story is slammed as painfully dull and forgettable. Quests are generic fetch or kill tasks, and overall content is artificially time-gated, meaning the game slowly drip feeds new area and missions daily to give the illusion of some kind of depth. And finally is the mobile contamination, because the inclusion of an auto combat feature, even if optional, is a massive turnoff for many hardcore MMO players who say it cheapens the action of combat experience. The open world, while beautiful, is also criticized for feeling empty, lacking the dynamic puzzles and events seen in the other modern open world titles that you can find out on the market currently. So the final word from the previews of Blue Protocol Star Resonance is a gorgeous game with satisfying action combat and a lively social world, but be prepared for a slog through the dull story, restrictive time gates, and a heavy, complicated monetization system. If you want a visual feast and solid action, it's worth checking out since it's free. If you're looking for a deep traditional MMORPG experience, the flaws might quickly turn you away, however. And next, what happens when you cross a massive tactical RPG like Fire Emblem with the addictive high-stakes loop of a roguelike? You get Lost Eidolons, Veil of the Witch. This is a follow-up to the 2022 tactical RPG Lost Eidolons. Instead of a massive linear story, developers Ocean Drive Studios have focused entirely on the best part of the original game, the turn-based tactical combat, wrapping it in a structure that encourages endless replayability. The game is made by Ocean Wish and Rise Studio Incorporated. They're not new to the genre. Their first title, the original Lost Eidolons, was a well-received cinematic SRPG that drew clear inspiration from games like Fire Emblem Three Houses. The studio is dedicated to the genre they love, and they are also working on a roguelike shooter called Section 13 and a physics-based survival game, showing they are willing to apply the roguelike formula to diverse projects. The biggest selling point here is the successful fusion of genres. Previews highlight 4 major wins for Veil of the Witch. First of all is the satisfying tactical depth, because the core grid-based combat is better than ever. The developers kept the zone control mechanic where enemies block adjacent tiles, making positioning absolutely critical. This is a game where every single move tests your brain. Then there is the killer elemental system, because magic is spectacular. You can ignite wooden areas with fire and, most importantly, exploit the environments by shocking multiple wet enemies with a single lightning spell. It adds a powerful dynamic layer to your tactical planning. Then we have the powerful roguelike loop, which is showing us that death is simply part of the journey. When you fail, you return to the altar of fire, where you spend your rewards on permanent meta progression, stat boosts, and unlocks that make your party stronger for the next run. The loop keeps you coming back for just one more run. Next, we have the incredible build variety. You can choose a squad from 9 distinct characters, and with hundreds of randomized skills and dozens of artifacts, no 2 runs will play out the same. You'll constantly be building and experimenting with new devastating team compositions, but that roguelike structure comes with a few caveats. First of all, the pacing issues. For a quick roguelike session, some critics found the individual levels could drag on too long. It's still a deep SRPG at heart, and that means battles require time and thought, which can clash with the fast-paced genre it's trying to merge with. Then there is the thin story, because the narrative is deliberately minimal. The premise: you're Ash, you're shipwrecked, you have amnesia, and a mysterious witch tells you what to do. It's highly cliched. The focus is squarely on the gameplay loop, so don't expect a sweeping cinematic story like the original Lost Eidolons. Then there is balance concerns, because in early access there have been some issues with inconsistent balance. Specific permanent upgrades or skills have proven so overwhelmingly powerful that they dominate builds, limiting variety until the developers can fine-tune the numbers for a full release. Lost Eidolons Veil of the Witch is a fantastic sounding proposition for hardcore tactic fans. It takes great combat, adds dynamic magic, and wraps it in a compelling die, get stronger, try again package. If you are willing to forgive a cliche story and a little unpolished pacing, this game is ready to sink its teeth into you. Will you survive the curse of the island, or will you embrace the roguelike grind? And now, for fans of classic turn-based tactics, the Rise Eterna series promises that old-school SRPG feel. Now, developers Phil McKee Games are back with the sequel Rise Eterna 2, aiming to improve on the foundations of the 2021 original. This is a story of war, revenge, and intrigue, where you play a yacht, an Thracian soldier set on reclaiming his empire's glory amidst a 3-way conflict with the throne. But should you jump in? Let's break down the sales points and the major red flags based on this series' history. The game is being handled by McKee Games, a French and Japanese studio whose goal is to provide modern old-school game experiences. Their main projects are the SRPG space, the original Rise Eterna, and the prequel Rise Eterna War, which experimented with real-time and deck-building elements. Their history confirms they are passionate about the game, even if the first attempt had a lot of issues. The key feature of Rise Eterna 2 are focused entirely on adding depth where the original was criticized for being way too shallow. The true tactical depth is the first thing to look at. The developers are introducing terrain advantage. Now, the type of tile your units stand on will actively affect their attacks and movement. This forces players to think strategically about where they position every soldier, directly addressing the past complaint of unchallenging map design. Then Then there is the modern progression system, because instead of the strange, non-traditional leveling of the first game, Rise Eterna 2 offers deep customization. You use gems to enhance hero abilities, and each character has a dedicated skill tree. This promises much more control over building powerful, specialized units. Then there is the focus content, because the game features a substantial campaign of 24 missions across diverse biomes, suggesting a more focused, refined package than the sprawling, often empty-filling maps of the first game. The biggest caution here is the original game's reception. Rise Eterna received mixed to negative reviews, and if Rise Eterna 2 doesn't fix these core problems, it's a risky buy. The number one complaint about the first game was the lack of difficulty. Enemies were passive, often waiting until you were in range to move. Players could easily overpower their units, turning every battle into a boring, one-sided cleanup. Rise Eterna 2 must deliver smarter AI to make its new terrain system matter. The writing in the original was also heavily criticized as unengaging, cliche, and simplistic. The story sequences lacked impact, and the characters often felt underdeveloped. While the sequel was a new protagonist, the overall narrative quality remains a serious question mark. The first game was also dinged for poor UI and presentation. Most glaringly, the music was often mismatched to the action. Calm, relaxed tracks playing over dramatic ambushes, ruining the tension. This suggests a great lack of polish and sequel needs to overcome. Rise Eterna 2 is a sequel that knows exactly what it needs to fix, promising a truly tactical experience with deep customization, but it's also carrying the weight of its predecessor's failures, repetitive battles, and a weak narrative. If you love old school SRPGs and are willing to take a chance on an indie team dedicating to fixing their past mistakes, keep an eye out for the reviews. But if you demand the high standard of challenges and story found in the genre's biggest names, you may want to wait for the final word. Now, what if the act of shooting wasn't about ending something, but starting it? Meet Dreams of Another, the latest title from director Bayan and the experimental minds at Q Games. This is a third-person exploration and action game built entirely around a single philosophical idea: there is no creation without destruction. In this game, the gun in your hand is not a weapon of war, but a tool of artistry. When you fire, your shots don't destroy, they materialize the world around you, turning a fragmented, dreamlike void into solid, explorable reality. Founded by industry veteran Dylan Cuthbert, who worked on the original Star Fox, Q Games is best known for the beloved Pixel Junk series. The director of Dreams of Another, Bayan, is a multimedia artist who also helmed the highly stylized and abstract platform Pixel Junk Eden. This history is key. This is not a traditional studio. They specialize in creating integrated artistic experiences where music, visuals, and philosophy are all tightly linked together. Expect art first, action second, though. For players looking for a truly original experience, Dreams of Another has three major draws. The shooting creates mechanic is truly unique. It transforms the act of firing into a puzzle, a wayfinding tool, and a constant engagement with the environment. It is the core reason to play this game. The game also uses point cloud rendering to create its environments. Everything looks like it's made of glittering, shimmering particles. It gives the world a hazy, surreal, and absolutely unique artistic identity, making it one of the most visually distinct titles of the year. Bayan composes the soundtrack himself, creating an experimental, emotional, stirring audio experience that is perfectly synchronized with the visuals. It's a cohesive work of art with a poetic story revolving around mysterious characters like the man in pajamas and the wandering soldier. But a project this ambitious and artistic comes with significant caveats, especially for gamers seeking conventional thrills. More or less, the core mechanic of shooting to create is brilliant, but critics and players have questioned if it can sustain a full-length adventure. There's a worry that the game loop may become repetitive, essentially just coloring in the scenery if the core action, platforming, or puzzle solving isn't varied enough. Much like David Lynch's film, the story is purposefully abstracted and confusing as well. If you need a clear plot, ambiguous characters, and defined stakes, you will likely be frustrated. This game is more about interpretation and atmosphere than it it is about resolution. And this is not a polished mainstream AAA experience, it's an art game. And that means the pacing, the controls, and the overall design may prioritize the philosophical theme over player comfort and traditional gameplay satisfaction. Dreams of Another is for players who crave genuine originality and prioritize art over action. If you love the surreal mystery of games like Tomorrow's Children or the abstract flow of Pixel Junk Eden, this is an immediate must-buy experience. If you're looking for a straightforward third-person shooter, keep walking. Or are you a MMORPG fan who loves sweeping visuals of large player-built castles and detailed medieval environments in Unreal Engine 5? This is Pax Dei, a massive online world where medieval myth is real and civilization is nothing more than a blank slate. This is a social sandbox MMO with one radical rule: everything you see, use, or wear is made by another player. Forget quest-giving NPCs and theme park rides. In Pax Dei, you choose your role. Be it a blacksmith, a mercenary, a hermit, or a king. The goal is simple: survive, build, and leave your mark on a persistent world shared by thousands. The ambition comes from Mainframe Industries, a studio founded by veterans who worked on one of the most infamously player-driven games of all time, EVE Online. Their vision is clear: create a massive, deep social experiment, but set it in a world of knights and magic. Their pedigree suggests expertise in crafting complex economic and social systems, not just simple action games. Pax Dei is a PC exclusive launching on Steam, Epic Game Store, and most importantly for deal hunters, day one on PC Game Pass on October 16th. The building system is basically phenomenal. You and your clan can construct anything from a modest home to a towering defensible castle, making this a digital medieval Lego fantasy come true. You can also take place when building in the Heartlands, a safe zone protected from raiding and constant PvP grieving. This allows dedicated crafters to focus entirely on their trade without fear of losing everything overnight. And finally, there is a true player economy. So if you are tired of games where a sword drops from a monster, this is your fix. Everything, weapons, food, armor, and market goods is produced by a player, creating a complex, needed ecosystem that rewards specialization. However, Pax Dei has been a controversial early access title, and its 1.0 release is plagued by two very massive red flags. First off is that the grind is real. Critics overwhelmingly agree. The progression is tedious. You will craft the same items thousands of times just to level up a profession. This is a deliberate design choice, but one that actively works against fun and accessibility for solo players or small groups. Next is the monetization model. Cha-ching! While the game is available on Game Pass, claiming your own piece of the world, a plot of land, requires either purchasing a base game or subscribing to a premium membership to receive monthly plot tokens. This pay-to-keep model, where your hard-built home can effectively decay if you don't pay the subscription tax, has been a primary source of anger from the community, especially since Xbox has decided to up that price. Finally, the combat is very shallow. It feels unfinished, which severely undermines the core adventure loop in the dangerous wildlands. Many believe the game is launching 1.0 in a state that still feels like a bare bones alpha. Pax Dei is a game of magnificent potential. If you have a dedicated clan, love the idea of harsh economic challenges, and view the grinding as part of the ritual, Game Pass offers a risk-free chance to enter a truly player-driven world. But be warned, the gates of this kingdom are guarded by an intentional, tedious grind and a controversial tax on your property. And next, if you've ever played a massive RPG and thought, I just want the dungeons, I hate the grind, then this game is built for you. This is Fellowship, a multiplayer online dungeon adventure, or MODA, from developer Chief Rebel. Fellowship has one radical idea. It strips away the endless questing, the travel time, and the world building. It gives you only the exhilarating in-game dungeon loop right from the moment you log in. No subscription, no leveling, a character for 50 hours, just pure skill-based co co-op action. The design philosophy here is accessibility without compromising the depth. You instantly jump into a 4-player group, a tank, a healer, and 2 damage dealers. You choose from a roster of pre-designed heroes, each with a unique MOBA-style kit like a Paladin or a Frost Mage. This allows you to immediately focus on your role. The challenge never ends. The game features dungeons and shorter adventures which scale in difficulty through tiers called leagues. As you climb, the game adds complex boss mechanics and random affixes difficulty modifiers like a faster timer or enhanced enemy abilities. This game is built for the player with limited time. You get all the rewarding loot, the skill execution, and the team coordination of a high-level MMO dungeon, but you get a run in without a massive time commitment. Now, for the hard truth, this focused design comes with significant trade-offs that have divided the community overall. First of all is the identity crisis. The greatest strength is also the greatest weakness. There is no character creation. You are forced to play as one of the pre-made heroes, which is a major point of frustration for players who want to build their own fantasy character. You might see 10 copies of the same Paladin running around in the hub. Next is the repetition and grind. While the time to start playing is 0, the time to progress is still very high. The core loop is running the same static dungeons over and over again to gain incremental gear upgrades and unlock the next difficulty tier. If you don't love repetition, this game will quickly feel like a treadmill because they got to make their money somehow. And finally, the feel of combat is also at question. While the mechanics are complex, early playtests reported that the combat could sometimes feel shallow or lack the satisfying weight and impact of abilities found in its AAA competitors. Developer Chief Rebel, a new studio with veterans from titles like Diablo 4 and World of Warcraft, has been working to improve this, however. Fellowship is a fascinating experiment launching into early access on PC via Steam and Arc Games on October 16th. It's a passion project from Chief Rebel dedicated to those who love the Mythic Plus challenge and hate the fluff. If you have 3 friends and a desire for pure, intense team-based boss killing, this is a risk-free grab, but if your fantasy needs a unique character and a grand world to explore, be cautious. This game is all tunnels, no open sky. And last but certainly not least, you have heard of Escape from Tarkov. Now, prepare for its quacky counterpart, Escape from Duckov. This isn't just a parody, it's a genuine, engaging top-down extraction shooter that swaps out gritty realism for high-stakes, feathered chaos. Developed by Team Soda and published by Bibli, Duckov has already ruffled feathers with a wildly popular demo, proving there's an appetite for a more accessible but still challenging take on the extraction genre. At its core, this is a PvE looter shooter where you are a customizable duck soldier. You venture out into the world to scavenge materials, weapons, and blueprints. If you die, you lose your inventory, but not your progress. The goal is simple: survive the run, bring the loot back to your underground base, and upgrade your facilities. Use a deep crafting system to turn scraps into fully modified guns. Build a medical station, an armament rack, and even a gym for permanent stat boosts. It's a satisfying constant loop for risk and reward. Now, let's talk about the talent. The game is the primary title from its indie studio, Team Soda. While they don't have a large back catalog, their debut has clearly captured attention. They are partnered with the major publisher Bilibili, known for disturbing titles like Warm Snow. This backing gives the project a solid foundation for launch and future support. The positives are overwhelmingly focused on accessibility and fun. Reviewers love that it offers the tension of an extraction shooter without the punishing, sweaty experience of PvP griefers. It's often called a ridiculous, self-aware fun game, and the unique, charming duck art style is a huge selling point. However, there are a few sticking points. Some players felt the presentation was too basic, a little like an early access mobile game. More critically, feedback mentioned that the gunplay lacks impact, with a need for better sound and visual feedback on its hits. And finally, some of the base upgrades are tied to frustratingly long real-time timers, which feel more like an idle game mechanic than a fun progression system. The game is currently scheduled for release on PC via Steam and Epic Game Store, as well as the Mac App Store. For those waiting to dive in on a subscription service, we have to address the major question: is Escape from Duckov on Xbox Game Pass? The answer is no. There has been no announcement or indication that this title will be coming to Xbox or PC Game Pass at launch. It's currently a pure PC Mac release. Overall, Escape from Duckov looks set to be the charming, addictively playable alternative to the hardcore shooters. If you're ready to trade your tactical helmet for a beak and a battle vest, get ready to waddle. And that, my friends, is the deep dive on 7 games that should be on your watch list right now. From the cozy in-game of Fellowship to the quacky chaos of Escape from Duckov, there's a title for every kind of gamer. The big question is, which one are you going to download first? Let me know in the comments below. Are you going all in on the player-driven worlds of Pax Dei, or are the red flags of Rise Eterna 2 enough to make you hold off? Don't forget to like this video if you survived the mega report, and subscribe to NERDBIRD Gaming so you don't miss out on the next critical analysis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great week.